Moving on, Iran's missiles have put America's war machine under pressure. The USS Abraham Lincoln was pushed away from a vital supply route as Washington weighs an exit. Now, Donald Trump is reaching for more sanctions, while Tehran says the economic assault will fail. Our next report brings you the latest situation from West Asia and where the US and Iran they stand at this particular juncture. Take a look.
The sea is unforgiving. Nuclear powered ships can carry immense firepower, but they cannot fight without fuel, food, spare parts, and safe ports. In the Gulf, every supply line has become a target. Every missile alert carries a warning that America's campaign may be running out of room. The USS Abraham Lincoln has been at the center of the storm. The supercarrier was forced to leave the battle zone. It dominated headlines for all the wrong reasons. At the beginning of the war, the Iranian attack in retaliation for the American-Israeli assault on Tehran targeted one of America's most crucial naval bases in Bahrain. The attack destroyed much of the base in Bahrain, which is home to the US Fifth Fleet, as well as a major logistics hub. The US Navy had relied on this base for decades.
So now what you're starting to see, title of our show is U.S. forced out of the Persian Gulf. We've been seeing for a while now that there are chinks in the armor, that the United States is not really able to protect their Gulf allies. They have bases all around the world. They have bases in the Persian Gulf, which also leads to the petrodollar, leads to the discussion of the petrodollar, and that's kind of the agreement that the United States and the Arab nations have. Hey, you support us militarily, you protect us militarily, and we'll sell your oil on the using the U.S. dollar. And now that has worked though for some time, because the United States didn't really challenge a country that was able to defend itself the way Iran has. Iraq wasn't able to defend itself. United States marched right in, and it kind of like it was like a false bravado. Like, it didn't really show exactly the strength of the United States. It showed the weakness of Iraq, or the weakness of a country that gave into international pressure of not producing mass weapons, right? Weapons of mass destruction. So let's continue.
The Pentagon needed a plan B to feed sailors working around the clock to keep warplanes flying strike missions and later enforce a blockade of Iran's ports. With Iranian attacks threatening other regional ports, the US military turned to the British-run base on Diego Garcia, south of the Maldives and roughly 3,500 kilometers from the carrier strike groups operating in the Gulf of Oman. The loss of Bahrain's hub has contributed to reported problems aboard carriers supporting operations against Iran, while Democratic senators raise concerns about the Lincoln's 5,000 sailors and their nearly 9-month deployment. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, rejected those accounts as seriously misrepresented. But the resupply controversy has intensified questions about the carrier's condition and Washington's ability to sustain the war against Iran. Iran's missile campaign has forced American commanders to defend bases, ships, and logistics hubs across the region. Interceptors are consumed, aircraft need protection, warships must keep moving. The USS Abraham Lincoln has left, and USS George Washington has now entered the Persian Gulf. American military planners describe the move as a usual one, but a closer look shows it is a forced retreat.
Underestimating, let's say, the Iranian power at the end of the day. The Americans have been thinking it's a matter of, let's say, 1 week, perhaps 2 weeks, to get a regime change in Tehran.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like they thought this was going to be Iraq, part 2, 2.0. This was going to be shock and awe. They were going to destroy a whole civilization with the push of a button, or overnight. The whole civilization would have been destroyed. What? This is the problem when our president is taking intelligence from Israel, and we know Israel has an agenda that's not in our interest. That's the problem with this. And for all these smart people, all these high IQ people in the top brass of the military, in the top brass of the executive uh, department, fell for this, totally underestimated their opponent. Now, who does that? I mean, if you're a boxer, you know, you don't go into the ring like thinking, okay, well, if you're a good boxer, at least you try. You try to knock out your opponent in the first round, but you also plan for it to go 12 rounds, right? You get into the ring, you try, you want to knock out your opponent in the first round, of course, but you also plan and you're trained and you're ready to go 12, to go the distance. If you go in as a boxer saying, okay, I'm knocking this guy out in the first round, and you're not thinking about round 6, 8, 10, or 12, that's not a good position for you, because if you don't knock him out in the first round, that puts you in a very, vulnerable position psychologically. Okay, because now you're in territory that you weren't prepared for, that you didn't think you'd be in. So let's continue with the video.
They've missed the story totally, because they've totally underestimated the value of the Strait of Hormuz on the Iranian side. They are condemned just to negotiate. But Trump doesn't want to show this weakness ahead of the midterm elections in the US. This is the situation where we are.
Now, behind the scenes, the Pentagon is examining a smaller American military presence in the Gulf once the war ends. That points to a possible strategic reset. Donald Trump wants to claim victory, reduce the risk to US forces, and avoid a conflict that keeps expanding. The United States maintains around 40,000 military personnel stationed across nearly 20 key installations and bases in West Asia. Spanning from Jordan to Oman, Kuwait and Qatar host major long-term army and air force support infrastructure. But leaving is not simple. Iran can threaten bases, shipping lanes and energy routes. A hurried exit could look like defeat, and Iran is firm that the Strait of Hormuz remains shut until all their demands are fully met.
And let me make it clear, until America implements its commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding, including lifting the blockade on the release of frozen assets, lifting the oil sanctions, ending threats and military operations on all fronts, and other conditions that America has agreed to under the understanding, the strait will not be reopened.
The US president is maintaining a bold posture and sticking to its core demand that Iran cannot be left unchecked.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. You understand that? Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they won't have a nuclear weapon. And right now, them building one after what we did previously with the B-2 bombers, it's going to be a long time to have. But Iran cannot have, it's very simple, they can't have a nuclear weapon.
Washington has now turned to economic pressure. Trump's administration promises sanctions unlike anything Iran has faced. Tehran says they will fail. Iranian officials insist pressure will not break the country's resistance or force surrender.
All right, so I just want to make a quick point about the nuclear weapons. The supreme leader, the Ayatollah that was assassinated, he had a fatwa. A fatwa is like a religious ruling. He had a fatwa that said no nuclear weapons. They weren't gonna, they were not pursuing nuclear weapons as per his fatwa, his religious ruling. But Israel kept saying that Iran wants a nuclear weapon, which was totally false, a lie. Okay, you kill the supreme leader, right? Now his son becomes the supreme leader. Now he is seeing like, wait, hey, this is gonna be, my father was like Gaddafi, right? Gaddafi, they went into Libya because he didn't have weapons of mass destruction. He didn't have a nuclear weapon. So they went into Libya and they took it over. So the son of the assassinated, slain Khomeini, religious leader, is like, I'm not going to be another Gaddafi. So from what I understand, he might be pursuing nuclear weapons. And I think it would make sense. I think it would make sense because the United States has proven not to be, an actor that you can have confidence in. They had the MOU, everything was there, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was blown up by Israel. But yeah, let's watch another video here real quick of Jimmy Dore sat down with Larry Johnson, a former CIA analyst, and they had an interesting discussion about what we're talking about now, and he gives a little more insight into what we are discussing. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this.
The damage that's been inflicted on these bases, the destruction of radar systems, the destruction of satellite communication systems, the destruction of buildings and headquarters is so significant that the Pentagon, just from a budgetary standpoint, has said, so we got to go in and ask for billions of dollars to rebuild. And we can't guarantee the security of those sites. The headquarters is history now, and it's going to take a lot of money to rebuild. But if they rebuild, there's no guarantee that it can't be easily destroyed again.
This is from antiwar.com. Report: the U.S. considers reducing Persian Gulf military presence after Iran war. Damage to U.S. bases in the Gulf has prompted a once-in-a-generation chance for the Pentagon to reconsider its presence in the region, and that the Pentagon had already signaled it may not rebuild its Gulf bases to how they were before. So
this is interesting because the United States, since 9/11 or 9/11, has really been actively involved, even though they had bases, of course, in the Persian Gulf, in the Arab world before 9/11. They've been very active militarily in that area, with all the wars, with the Afghanistan war, the Iraq invasion, with Syria. So now, because so much has been spent, so much blood, so much sacrifice, so much money, and then just like that, for Iran to fire a couple of missiles and these bases are not sustainable anymore. The Pentagon is considering not rebuilding these bases because they believe it's not sustainable after a couple of missiles hit these American bases in the Persian Gulf, in the Arab region of the world. I think that's something to think about. Like, was it that fragile? Is the United States a paper tiger? We spend $1.5 billion, 1 trillion, 1.5 trillion dollars on the defense bill, on the defense budget. And a couple of Iranian missiles, I'm exaggerating, right? But the United States is not able to protect its allies. Number one, I mean, it's expensive. I mean, each what these Tomahawks or whatever they're using, these Patriot missiles, they cost millions of dollars each time you fire them. It's a lot. So, and then they're giving these missiles, this equipment, expensive equipment, to Ukraine as well. They've been doing that for years. So yeah, let's continue.
This is the problem of the petrodollar. We went into the Gulf states and we promised them security, so we built all these big military bases, and turns out they were just sitting ducks. And as soon as the war started, Iran hit all of those in all those countries, and we showed those Gulf states that we are not going to protect them, nor can we. And so now we're making, according to this, we're not even going to try to rebuild those. So what's in it for the Gulf states to go along with the petrodollar after this? Isn't this kind of a disaster?
Oh yeah, no, big time. I mean, this is at least the Pentagon acknowledging the reality. The reality of what has happened is Iran, in its targeting, starting from March 2nd, of U.S. military facilities. The primary ones were in Bahrain, the Fifth Fleet headquarters, and Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar, which was the center for what they call the KAOC, Combined Air Operations Center, which is part of AFCENT, the Air Force Central Command component. The official headquarters of AFCENT is in Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina, but really for the last more than 20 years, its de facto headquarters has been there on Al Udeid. I went through there back in 2006, so it's a major base. But the damage that's been inflicted on these bases, the destruction of radar systems, the destruction of satellite communication systems, the destruction of buildings and headquarters is so significant that the Pentagon, just from a budgetary standpoint, has said, so we got to go in and ask for billions of dollars to rebuild, and we can't guarantee the security of those sites. Well, what's interesting is if you look at the base in Al Udeid at the Combined Air Operations Center, the Pentagon decided on February 26th to shut that down and bring that headquarters back from Qatar to Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina, because they said, we don't think we can protect it. And they were right. I give them credit for one thing, man. They made a prediction. They anticipated it, and they were absolutely correct. They saved lives that way. But the headquarters is history now, and it's going to take a lot of money to rebuild. But if they rebuild, there's no guarantee that it can't be easily destroyed again.
So it's over for the United States and the Middle East then, right? So it is completely changed. This war has completely changed our position, our policy.
When you think about it, when Trump was running for president, 2024, 2023, 2024, right? 2024, he's running for president and he's talking about MAGA, make America great again. No, I don't think anyone thought that America would be in this predicament. I don't think anybody thought that. I don't think anybody foresaw that, even his greatest enemies. That because he was very anti-war in his first term. And then to drag or to allow the United States to be bamboozled into this war and to get to this sad state of affairs where the United States, it looks like, potentially may no longer be a major player in the Middle East. Is China going to move in? Probably. Would China be a more trusted partner than the United States? Most likely. I mean, China is doing better in Africa than the United States or Europe did in Africa. So this is really a shame and a black eye for the Trump presidency. And he's going to go down in history as one of the worst presidents of all time, because he is the reason for the fall, or what appears to be the fall, of the United States empire.
In the Middle East and our control. So we have completely lost control of the Middle East, and we probably don't even have any influence.
Yeah, well, it's what happened when the connected guys in the neighborhood come to your pizzeria and promise, hey, you need to pay the insurance, we'll provide protection. And then it turns out they don't provide protection. The pizzeria owner has got, hey, get out of here, you guys. You're no good. You're useless. What good are you? You didn't protect me, and we got hammered. So they're going to look for alternatives. And one of those alternatives you started to see when Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan came together about a week and a half ago, or now 2 weeks ago, and they signed what was called the Mecca Agreement, Middle East. Basically, they're wanting to do a version of NATO. I call it the Middle East Treaty Organization. The acronym is Me Too.
Why is that? What does that mean?
What that means is they're basically saying we're going to take care of our security. We're not going to rely on the United States.
Oh, okay. So again, you can't overstate the change in the game that has happened, and the loss of American hegemony and the loss of America, even I mean, it's just so I don't understand. I mean, the only thing now is if we get enough politicians because you can't, it's very hard to run on a pro-Israel stance in the United States right now, and they're being beaten by people with Arab names.
No, that's dead. If you're running on pro-Israel stance, if you're running on, Israel is our greatest ally, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. I'm still surprised, that Massey lost his seat. I'm still very surprised at that, but it's fine. It's fine. Massey's doing a lot of great things with Tucker and Joe Kent, and so that's okay. He'll probably get back into Congress, and he'll definitely still have a lot of influence. But yeah, if you're running on Israel card, it's not going to work out for you.
The people who stand up for Israel and AIPAC are even losing to people who are with Arab names. And so do you feel like it's just a matter of time before the United States government, it becomes untenable for them to keep supporting Israel? And what happens when we stop supporting Israel?
Yeah, no, actually, I liken this to sort of the political crisis that hit the nation in 1854, when the Whig Party was divided over the issue of, do we favor slavery or do we oppose slavery? And that split the Whig Party off and created the Republican Party. I see this very issue of, are we going to put Israel first or America first? That's creating that same kind of division now within the Republican Party. And it is a divisive issue with, I think, a growing number of people who were Republicans, and not just on the Republican side, but some on the Democrat side, said we cannot continue to have U.S. policy held hostage to Israel. And when you saw Tucker Carlson's recent show where he interviewed the father, an American father whose son, an American citizen, and they're Christian, by the way, was murdered by Israeli settlers, and the U.S. government did nothing. And so those kinds of stories start to resonate, and more Americans are saying, wait a second, this fanaticism of these Zionists is off the charts, and we can't be associated with that. But it comes up with a recurring theme, goes back to the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty. That again, the U.S. government covered up. And you still got survivors today who want justice for that and can't obtain it. So yeah, this is becoming, I think, a divisive issue. I think it has the potential to split the Republican Party.
Well, Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey and others are forming a third party. So that seems to, kind of mirror what you were talking about in 1854 with the Whigs splitting, and it gave birth to the Republican Party.
Right.
And it seems there's going to be a division in the Republican Party, which there is already, and it's going to sprout a third party, which they seem committed to starting with Joe Kent and others. I hope
It's gonna resonate. It is, I had. Do you remember this guy Mark McCluskey? Him and his wife during the Black Lives Matter protest. They were in St. Louis outside their home carrying guns.
Yeah,
trying to fend off the protesters. I talked to him. He called me up and talked to me 2 weeks ago, and he ran Trump's campaign in Pennsylvania in 2016.
okay.
And he has split with Trump now over the issue of Israel.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so we're not talking just some guy sitting on his couch eating Cheetos. I mean, we're talking people who were actually involved in significant ways with the Trump campaign. This is a real issue, and I think it's gaining steam.
Hey, come see me do a live celebrity panel.
All right. So as you can see from these two clips that we watched, the United States is not in a very good position right now in the Persian Gulf. A lot of pressure from Iran as Iran continues to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, threatening United States bases, United States ships, aircraft carriers are on extended tours and don't have supplies that they need. Sailors are struggling. As you know, sailors wanting to jump ship, wanting to commit suicide. There's a whole lot going on that this war with Iran has exposed the United States and many of its weaknesses, and its neighbors have seen many of the United States' weaknesses to the point where Saudi Arabia, Turkey, right, these countries are coming together and making agreements and accords saying that we need to protect ourselves. So this war, which we were led into by Trump, this unnecessary war, which we were led into by Trump, has really diminished U.S. power around the world. So with that, let me get your thoughts. Please, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. Please like the video and comment down below. Let me know what you think. See you next time.